Hello everybody. A bit of a different introduction here to a video that's mostly about harvesting my grapes and making some grape jelly, and then a quick look around at a couple of things in the hoopos. And I harvested one of the more exotic kinds of potatoes that I'm growing. There is such a thing as an exotic potato, one called Sieglinde, Austrian or German variety. Sieglinde is a character in Wagner's Ring Cycle. Anyway, what I'm trying to show you here to begin with is I'm now the proud owner of an olive tree, which has a spider web on it. If you remember back to one of my videos, probably in midwinter sometime, I tried starting an olive from seed. I also sent olive seeds to numerous people. Some of you might be watching this video now. It said 1 to 6 months for germination. Well, I'm sure it's been a full 6 months and mine didn't germinate, and I haven't heard back from anybody else that said that theirs germinated. So I bought this from a company in British Columbia. Not very much money for the olive, but a lot of money for shipping because I wanted it shipped priority post so that it wouldn't be damaged or killed in a long wait in the mail. Soon after it arrived, it lost 3 leaves and left them on the surface down here. I was a bit concerned that, oh dear no, after all this money and time, it's going to die. However, shortly after that, and I'm sure you can't see it, but there are new leaves coming out everywhere, so my olive is alive. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the grape harvest and the grape jelly, which I think turned out very well. I'll try to remember to count the clusters once I get them all picked here. I think once I counted there was like 18 or something. This is that one that I kept showing earlier on, which had a few grapes that withered rather than growing. And now it's done another strange thing. It's the only cluster that I see in here. Even though they're all ripe, it has 2 green ones. So anyway, that's about the, well, I don't know, average size. I guess there are some smaller and some larger than that cluster. We may have crowing. There we go. Prince Leah has heard my voice, and he always feels it's necessary to talk back to me. This I have to show. This is the very last cluster. I've already harvested the rest, and I'll show you the basket in just a second. This is the one vine that came out through the end of the hoopos here, out around the vent, and produced one cluster outside in the sunshine. It ripened at the same time as the one inside, I suppose, because that's where the root system mostly is. Well, in the end, I didn't count the clusters. There were so many, well in excess of 20, some of them very small and some of them fair-sized clusters, but it weighs quite a bit. I don't know, 8 pounds or so maybe, 6 to 8 pounds, somewhere is in there. But anyway, I think that'll make me a few jars of jelly. We'll see what we get out of it. Well, I have picked them all off of the stems and weighed this bowl. I don't know. I didn't really subtract the weight of the bowl, but I would say I've got over 5 pounds, probably 5 1/4 pounds or so, and the recipe that I'm using says that 3 pounds should be enough to produce the 4 cups of juice that's required, so I should have the juice that's needed, I guess. Anyway, as you can see, the first phase is to put them in the pot in layers and mash them to try to break the skin on the majority of them anyway. Well, they have now been mashed. I'm not quite sure why, but I'll do it. It says to add 1/2 cup of water. Maybe that was in case they weren't juicy enough. And turn the heat on here. You bring these to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, cover and simmer for 10 minutes. I guess that's supposed to release most of the juice. This is the part that I always find a bit scary. I've never burnt myself yet, but I'm always concerned that I'm going to. I only need 4 cups of juice, and this turned out to be very juicy once it had been boiled. I don't know. It may have juice left over, I guess. That's just a jelly bag that it's going through, in case I didn't say. You can make your own jelly bag out of cheesecloth, but I find it works better if you have the proper stand and all that good stuff to work with. Just put all of the ingredients into the bag and let it continue to drip until it's stopped dripping. Well, that's 4 cups of the juice. I didn't measure what I have left over, but I think I have probably close to 2 cups left over, which I guess I'll chill and see what my fresh chilled grape juice tastes like. To this you add a ½ teaspoon of butter. And it says that that is to reduce the foaming when it's cooking. I seem to remember that I'd done that once before in some sort of a jelly recipe, but it kind of surprised me when I saw it. And 7 cups of white sugar. And bring this to a full rolling boil, and then add the pectin. And I'm using the brand name Certo again. This is supposed to make 7 cups of jelly. I recommend using 1 cup jars. I'm lazy, I can't be bothered. I have got 4 pint jars sterilized, so I should get 3 full and 1 somewhere around half full, I guess. I will put in the refrigerator and use immediately. Well, there it is at a full rolling boil, as they call it. Add the pectin, 1 poach of Certo. The recipe is by the Certo company, so that's how I know exactly how much to add. So that's that. Stir it in. And once that returns to a full rolling boil, which won't be long by the looks of it, you time it and let it boil for exactly 1 minute. Well, I guess I'm ready to put it in jars. Still a little bit of foam, but not much. The butter seems to have done the trick, I guess. You fill these within 1/4 of an inch of the top, it says. There is actually a tool for measuring that, and I can't be bothered. Once the jars all have their lids on, they go in a hot water canning bath, and once the canner returns to a boil, they're boiled for 5 minutes. And then they come out and sit for 12 hours or so until hopefully they've gelled. Come back and show you some jelly, hopefully, in a few minutes here. Well, as you can see, I managed to get the 3 and, well, better than 1/2 jars, I guess. And this one has been in the fridge overnight, but it gives you an idea of what it looks like. It gelled very nicely, if I don't drop it all over the counter here. And has a great grape flavor. So I'm very pleased with that. Needed a few more potatoes at the house. Ran out, so I went to do a little harvesting. I thought I would show you what this variety looks like. This is called Sieglinde, a very Wagnerian opera type of potato, evidently. Sieglinde is a character in Wagner's Ring Cycle. I had some of these earlier in the summer, but I didn't show revealing them, I guess. Part of the seed potatoes that I got from West Coast Seeds there this spring. Like most of my potatoes this year, they're not very large. I remember eating them and enjoying them, but I can't say as I really recall what they were like. I guess that's it. A handful of Sieglinde. I think I'll also open up a bag of the Cara potatoes while I'm here. Take those off the one side here. Should be a few more potatoes in this. These are much heavier. They were chitted and started really early. Started them in the hoop house and then brought them outside. Once danger of frost had passed this spring, we're back now into fall and danger of frost arriving, I guess, isn't too far away. Down to 8 degrees here last night. We're probably still a few weeks away from our first frost here. We've had frost in northern New Brunswick. We usually get it a good month before we get it here. Actually, somebody about Serge that I follow up there had his first frost on the 29th of August. That was way too early. Even for an area that gets frost earlier than we do, that would be exceptionally early, I would think. Once again, I'm not finding the seed potato. That's strange. It's happened a couple of times this year. That's not a gigantic harvest, but that's a better show than I've had with some of the more exotic, fancy varieties, Sieglinde and the Blue Russians, or whatever they're grown. So, once again, Brendan, Cara is proving to be my best crop. Just about to go in and harvest my grapes. They're all ripe and nice and sweet. I've been picking some and eating them, but I think I have enough there to make a small batch of grape jelly. So that's going to happen later today, I guess. But I thought I would give you a look at the brassicas, which are coming along quite nicely. Way down in the very back, I don't know, get a finger in there, way down there, there are a few cabbage plants. And then about half of the rest of them are cauliflower. And the front half of the row here is broccoli. No broccoli or cauliflower heads on them yet. But the plants, as you can see, have really done quite well. And the cabbages are just sort of barely beginning to head up. The first few leaves that come together to make the head are there. My third planting of beets. It looks like it's actually going to produce some beets. I was curious to see what would happen because the other two plantings were planted, well, early in the spring when the daylight days were getting longer and in the heat of the summer when, you know, it was nice long sunny days. But this time of year with days getting shorter rather than longer, I didn't know if they would actually produce any beets or not. Well, there's nothing fantastic there yet, but some nice looking beet greens. And I'll pull one to show you. There are some small beets. Nothing huge, but, well, they've only been in a few weeks, but we're going to at least get some small beets to go with the beet greens, I guess. I'm still waiting for Thai chilies to ripen, but it looks to me like it's finally beginning to happen anyway. You can see this one down in here. Maybe I'll pick it so you can see it. That is my first ripe Thai chili. I've had a lot of ripe Big Bomb, the cherry chilies, the ones that I pickled, and they were excellent, by the way. I've almost eaten one jar of them, so I'm hoping to get enough of those to pickle some more. And I want to dry the Thai chilies just by threading them on a thread and hanging them up to air dry. So I have 3 plants like this that are just loaded in literally hundreds of nice green chilies, and I'm glad to see they're starting to ripen. So hopefully the cold weather will hold off, and here in the hoop house they will ripen for me.